Listening at the call. Welcome everybody to the Open Hearted Practice Group. It's Monday, December the 19th or Tuesday, December the 20th, depending which side of the date line you're on at the moment. And I'm Jim Mansky. Jory, I think, is taking the day off. She had another one of those long, grueling dental appointments today. And so she just got home a little while ago after leaving at like 10 o'clock this morning. So it's been a long day for her already. So I told her she could come even for a few minutes if she wanted to at any point. So she might do that. We'll find out. But I'm really glad you're here. Today, the topic is the joy of giving, which seems appropriate for the holiday season, the end of the year season, which is often accompanied by gift giving. But we're going to be looking at gift giving in the context not only of seasonal gift giving, but every moment is an opportunity to give and receive. And so we'll be exploring that today, both the joy of giving as well as what gets in the way of giving. And we do that through practice. We're practicing nonviolent communication, which is a process and a language and consciousness that was developed by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. Started working on it back in the 1960s and got more fully developed in the 90s. And now we have a network of certified trainers all around the world. We have about 700 certified trainers, and I'm lucky enough to be one of them. Jory and I live here in Maui, where we are right on the edge of what's called a Kona storm. And so if I disappear, please don't take it personally. We'll be here as long as we can. And but we lost our internet twice already today. So if I disappear, that you'll understand what happened. And it may automatically turn one of you into a co-host. So you guys can keep hanging on and playing until I get back. If I can get back, I'll come back. And the way we practice 3 different ways. We practice with self-compassion or self-empathy, which I'll guide you in a process in just a few minutes, to use nonviolent communication just with yourself, to get connected with your own feelings, needs, observations, and requests. And then we'll also create small groups for you to practice the other 2 ways of practicing, which are honesty and empathy. Honesty being when we're opening our mouth and sharing what's alive in us with other people, and empathy, the listening part of nonviolent communication. So you get a chance to practice all of that several different ways today. That's the plan anyway, depending on the weather. Right now it's calm, but that's they say about the calm before the storm. Out on my porch, there's a 2-cup measuring cup that I use as a rain gauge. And yesterday it was empty, and today it's completely full. So there's 2 cups of water in that. So that's about 7 or 8 inches of rain that we got in the last 24 hours or so. So it's sopping wet out there. So with that all said, why don't we just take a few minutes and practice some self-connection? And then I'll guide you through the rest of our process for today.
Question.
Sure.
Question.
Go ahead.
When people have an equal sign in front of their names, and then they stay in this room, do they talk to you, or do they just don't talk to anybody?
We usually put them into a separate room, because I leave this room open in case somebody needs some help. They'll call for help and then they can leave. But if thank you for asking. If you put an equal sign in front of your name, that means I make a small group for you with other people with an equal sign, but there's no expectation that anybody speak in that room. It's more like a library where you can do whatever you need. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. Okay, so let's practice some self-connection. You're already doing it, right? You're already quite aware of what's going on in your environment. So just go ahead and do that with more consciousness, with more awareness. Just notice that you're aware. And notice what it is that you're aware of. You might be aware of sights, what you see. Just let your eyes go wherever they want to go and just look around in the space where you are. You might be aware of sounds, the sound of my voice. Perhaps there's other sounds in your environment. You may be aware of tastes lingering in your mouth from the last thing that you ate or drank. You may be aware of aromas, odors. And notice as you shift these channels, you have some choice about what you pay attention to. You may also be aware of sensations in your body. So shifting from the world to now to the body. Sometimes it's helpful for practice to close your eyes, but you don't have to. If you want to, you might enhance your awareness of physical sensations in your body. You might even scan your body, starting at your feet and moving up your body, noticing any sense of tension or stress or tightness. Don't need to do anything about it. You can just notice it. You can notice it and then name it for yourself. If you notice pain, greet that pain with a sense of empathy. Nobody enjoys pain, and yet it's necessary. It lets us know that there's an unsatisfied need. So if you've got pain in your body and there's something you can do about it, like the pain of thirst or the pain of hunger or some kind of discomfort from your body position, feel free to follow your intuitions about how to address your needs for well-being. Give yourself the gift of a request. If you notice pleasure in your body, that's a natural consequence of needs being satisfied. So some of you might be noticing more of a feeling of openness in your heart, just seeing that you're not alone, that you're here as part of this community. Or maybe you just had something to eat and you notice your belly's full, or you just had a sip of something so you're no longer thirsty. It's such a gift that you can give to yourself to notice both the pain of unmet needs and the pleasure of a satisfied need. Speaking of needs, that's another thing that we can practice paying attention to. And one easy way to access that is just ask yourself, what's important to me right now? What's important right now? I've heard from lots of people that come to this call that they're here because learning is important, where connection is important, community, fun, growth. Something else. What's it about for you? And finally, consider what kind of a request could you make of yourself that could make your life more wonderful for the next hour to almost 2 hours that we'll be together? What could you ask of yourself in order to increase the likelihood of getting the needs that you have satisfied today? So you've all just been giving yourself the gift of self-connection. And now there's going to be an opportunity for you to give the gift of your honesty to maybe some new friends, or maybe some friends that you haven't been with for a while in a small group. I think all the groups pretty much have 3 people in them. And the groups will just last for about 10 minutes. There'll be a timer on the upper right-hand corner of your screen that'll do like a little countdown, starting with 9 minutes. And when it gets to 0, there'll be 1 minute left to finish up. And people say, what am I supposed to do in this small group? It's just a chance for you to introduce yourself to each other, and maybe say your name, where you're from, what you learned about yourself during that self-connection exercise. Maybe there's some honesty about the exercise that you'd like to share. Maybe you really liked it. Maybe you didn't. It's up to you, whatever you want to share about. Everybody has about 3 minutes to share. And then when you're done, make sure that you protect everybody else's time so that everybody has a chance to share in the small group, about 3 minutes apiece. And if you're not in a group yet, when the group starts, I will get you into one as soon as I can. But I'm going to go ahead and open the groups now and see you all back here in about 10 minutes. And we're all back together, and glad to see you all survive the trip through cyberspace. And I hope you enjoyed it. Some people are having some internet problems today. So groups were kind of flexible. Hopefully my internet stays stable. So far, so good. So anybody would like to share anything here with the large group? Anything that you like to celebrate about your own NVC practice? Any breakthroughs that you've been having? Anything, any questions that you have? This is a time where we just spend a few minutes hearing from you about anything that you'd like to share. Some people are brand new, so you don't know how do you share. You can share two different ways. One way would be through the chat function. And since I'm flying solo, I'll do my best to keep track of the chat, but so far so good. And you can also raise your hand. So at the bottom of your screen, there's a little happy face that says reactions. And you click on that, and then there's a little menu that opens up, and then there's a place there that you can raise your hand, like Rob did. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, in my small group, I just shared that, I'm just feeling some sort of exhaustion today. And I'm having to support my adult daughter, and that's very emotional for me. And yeah, one of the members of the group just said, "I'm with you," and somehow that camaraderie gave me some energy and made me feel part of a community. So yeah, that was nourishing.
How wonderful to have that sense of solidarity. Somebody's with you. Sometimes
Yeah,
that kind of support's all we need in the moment to give us a little boost.
right.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
Juan?
One of my in the break room, one of friends shared she feel like here like a family, non-blooded related family, because we all have an NVC culture on the base, and we support each other and can hear each other and warm each other. So really touched me. I want to celebrate that part.
Yeah, me too. What a wonderful thing to celebrate. A sense of a shared aim, something in common that we all have. I mean, look at us. We're from all over the world, India and China and uh, Taiwan and Tennessee, and just looking around and seeing all these different places, Japan, and and yet we're here because we have something in common, a love for nonviolence and peace, and a language to support us. Thank you, Juan. Does that feel complete for you? Okay. And Rain, welcome. Glad to hear you.
Yeah, I just want to give my thanks to my group, yeah, to other ladies, because this is my first time to come here, so I'm kind of nervous, and also kind of exciting. And when I talk about what I got from the exercise, and one of them just speak something to to let me feel I'm understand, I'm listened. Yeah, so that's really make me warm. So I
Mm.
just want to appreciate that. And I also need the car. I don't know how to say that. I want to speak out because I do think that's the practice and the brave to do so. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
I hope I speak that clearly.
very clearly. I really hear your appreciation for your warm welcome and how important it is to arrive at a place like this and then have a place to share, to both speak and listen to one another.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'd love to hear some more voices. I learned this new term a few weeks ago. I don't know if I've shared it with you all yet, but there's a new way of describing people who come from um, uh, countries of the world where that have suffered from some kind of colonization, uh, and that I like the term the global majority. Used to call it the global South, and then I learned this new term, the global majority. I like this term because it's much more observational. Most of the world doesn't look like me, right? I'm the minority, and yet because of my the way that things worked out, people that look like me end up being the people that colonized the world, including Hawaii. You know, we waltzed in here 100 years ago and decided that, oh, Hawaii looks good. Let's turn that into the United States. And the Hawaiians didn't get a whole lot of choice about that. And so I have a lot of mourning about the impact of domination on the global minority. So I love the opportunity to hear your voice today and at all of our meetings. So feel free to speak up and let us know what your experience is and what you need as well. But all voices are welcome here. I'm pretty sure the global majority here is very well represented. It's really one of my funnest things about this particular group. We have people from all over the world. Anybody else want to share anything now? If not, then I'll subject you to my words some more. I've got a lesson for you, but I want to make sure that if there's something you'd like to say, I want to hear it. Okay, then let's do some practice. So today we're going to be working on the joy of giving. So I'm going to share my screen with you and guide you through some journaling. We were talking about journaling at the beginning of the call today with some people who arrived early. And so we'll take this opportunity. Most of us, I don't know about most of us, I hear from people that I work with as candidates who are becoming certified trainers that finding the time to journal can be a big challenge. And so I like to put aside some little pieces of time during the practice group to do some writing. So today we'll do some writing about the joy of giving. And the first exercise I'd like you to experiment with is to think of at least 5 gifts that you gave over the last year and make a list. Think of at least 5 gifts that you gave over the last year and make a list of those 5 gifts. This will be private, so you won't have to share this with anybody. This is just for your own growth and learning. I'll put it into the chat too. That seems to be helpful for some people. Uh-huh. Hopefully that helps. I saw some feedback from Purva. Does that help? Huh. Good. It's gone. Great. So then if you've done that, then next to each of them, write down why you gave the gift. Here in the United States, it's common to give gifts for Hanukkah or Christmas at this time of the year. So just the other day, I sent a game to my son and his fiance. And the reason why I gave them the gift was because all our family loves playing games. And I read about this game in the newspaper, and I thought if I gave it to them, then I would get a chance to play it with them someday. So really it was about celebration and fun is what motivated me to give that gift. So see if you can come up with what motivated you to give each of the gifts on your list.
What was the game?
Oh, it's called Small World. I don't know much about it other than it sounded like fun.
Jim, is there any game that has been designed on NVC? Because I do remember some people who had visited us from, I think, Singapore and Taiwan. They were designing something. Is it out somewhere?
Well,
There were games.
I do know of at least one game called the No Fault game that was designed by
Yeah.
Sura Hart, and that seems to be fun for a lot of people. And I think it's primarily a family game that you play with your kids and so forth. And then there's also the Grok cards, which there's several games that have been created with that.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. Excuse me. So let's hear what you learned so far. And then I'll tell you what I learned when I was doing this practice earlier today. I'd like to hear from you first. Anybody have any trouble coming up with 5? Probably not, because we give gifts all the time, right? Sometimes, if you open the door for somebody because they've got a handful of groceries or something like that, or somebody drops something and you pick it up, that's a gift. Or if you listen to somebody, that's a gift. Or if you share your honesty, that's a gift. Yeah, Sangeeta.
Thank you, Jim, and the beautiful community. So when I was asked to pick these 5 things that I had given, I realized that I was listing all the 5 things wherein I had given empathy from a space of compassion to people who were in trauma, still are in trauma, and they so badly needed that empathy, somebody to hold their hands and somebody to just speak out to. And I realized in that moment that I myself have been through that phase, been through this trauma, and there were so many people who gave me that empathy, unknown people who I never even knew existed on this planet, just came as if the universe had my back and was really wanting to support me. So it was a moment of expansion, of realizing that I am now in this position where I had once taken from the universe and from all the support that everybody gave me, and I'm now ready to give that support and empathy back to people.
Yeah, beautiful. So you're really celebrating that because of the gifts that you have received from others, it built up your resources enough to then be able to offer
Absolutely.
a similar gift to them. So it's starting to create a virtuous loop of giving and receiving.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So I really like that you pointed out that gifts can be relational as well as objects. Go ahead, Chamundiswari.
No, Chamu.
Chamu. Okay,
So it's a
Chamu.
very long name, Jim. Yeah, it's Chamu.
Okay, Chamu.
So, hi, I'm from India, Chennai.
Welcome.
So, this year is thanks for this opportunity, and it's my first session today. I hope you know Narsi. I work with Narsi.
Ah, yes.
So he has recommended me, to going on to join NVC with you. So I get a lot of learnings and I can share to others. So this year is a wonderful year, and God has gifted me a lot of things which I thought I give back to my family and my friends and to my society. So the first gift is like, giving my kid a secured future. So I got a house for her, and I got a car. Both these things were my long time goal, but this time I've achieved with God's grace. The reason I got a car for her is like to travel to long places, to show her the world, having fun, and making her life beautiful. Then I've changed her, her school to another school, which is a little upgraded for her, giving her fundamental knowledge, a strong knowledge, because education is very important. So I thought this school might really give her that education, what we are looking, to build a career and future, and basically to her to learn humanity, love and care to others. So the school really teaches a lot of moral science and values. So I changed to her to that new school. And of course, yes, a lot of new learning, being into training industry as an HR. Whatever I learned from people like you, every day I try to spread our knowledge to others for their personal growth, as well as that enlightens their knowledge.
Yeah.
So these are my wonderful gifts to my friends, family, and my colleague working with me.
Wow.
Sharing, caring.
Sharing and caring. Thank you so much, Chamu. And notice how the
Thank
rest of
you.
you, how you feel as you hear about these gifts, because this is a wonderful experience to empathize with the joy of giving. There's so much joy that Chamu is expressing, and we can empathize with that. We can allow our heart to be moved by her heart, and we can savor the needs that she satisfied in her giving, and then it feeds our soul as well. I just learned this new word. Some of you might have heard of Schadenfreude, which is a German word that is about how you can sometimes, like when the villain in a movie or a story gets what they deserve, and they get pain, and then we can enjoy that they receive pain. That's called Schadenfreude. But the Germans also have another word called Freudenfreude, which is where we actually enjoy somebody else's pleasure. This is very good for our human hearts. And so to find ways of empathizing with other people's joy is a way to increase our own happiness and well-being. So stay alert for celebrations, because every time somebody like Chamu or somebody else we meet celebrates the gift that they have given, that is a gift they are giving to us. And then we can receive that gift through empathy, and then we can we get to open up our hearts to this basic human capacity of joyful giving that we're exploring today. So thank you, Chamu, for sharing your celebrations with us.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
Tanya?
So I saw the need for me for all of the giving was contribution. The need met, and how much I enjoy contributing to, and I love that you talked about this rejoicing in other people's happiness. As I was taught by my spiritual teachers, is that this is a way. This is basically quote unquote cheap karma. is rejoicing in the happiness of others and rejoicing in the good deeds of others.
Yes.
So it's nice to hear that.
Amen. Yes. Thank you, Tanya. Pooja and then Juan.
I actually have a question. Is this opportune time for a question, or should I hold off until everybody shares?
Sure. Your question is a gift. I'm willing to receive it.
Thank you so much. So as you were sharing more about this topic and as everyone was sharing, and you shared your example from your life, and as others shared, it brought up, like I had a question come up in me. And I started noticing that gifts that are given and received can be like gifts that are given can be meeting needs for oneself, versus gifts that are given could be meeting needs for the other as contribution to the other person's needs. And so one of my question is that, you know, from an NVC point of view, like gifts that are given to meet one's own needs versus in contribution, like, you know, is there a difference? And then as a receiver, how does one experience that in terms of, you know, receiving a gift which is actually meeting someone else's need, versus receiving a gift that, you know, kind of serves towards, you know, meeting needs for the recipient. That's what came up. Thank you.
A wonderful question. Let me share this picture with you. So this is the image that Marshall often used to express our basic nature of human beings. This is a child feeding a hungry duck. And although we can't see the child's face, we could just see the duck's face in this case. You can imagine what the joy of that child is as he is feeding, I think it's a little boy, is feeding these hungry ducks. And I've been at that duck pond. I've been at duck ponds and other places where people are feeding birds. And you can be 4 years old like this little boy, or you can be 40 or 50. There's a guy at the beach that brings a jar of food to the beach every week that we're there, and he happens to be there. He pulls out this jar of food, bird food. He puts it into his hand, and the birds trust him so much. They come and they jump right onto his hand and they eat right out of his hand at the beach. And he has such a huge smile on his face. So yes, his need for contribution is being met, and the bird's need for nutrition is being met. But who's the giver and who's the receiver? This is actually part of the magic of joyful giving, is the boundary between giving and receiving disappears. That in that moment of true interdependence, when we're giving a gift from the heart, the giver's needs and the receiver's needs become one. And that's really at the heart of nonviolent communication. In fact, Marshall said, the purpose of nonviolent communication is to create a quality of connection that inspires compassionate giving and receiving. So connection is the strategy in order to get to the world that we want to live in, which is interdependence, where it's just filled from moment to moment with joyful giving and joyful receiving. And we're going to keep on exploring this as we go today, and keep unpeeling not only the joy of giving, but what gets in the way of it. So thank you for the question. Told you it would be a gift. Thanks for sharing it with us. Juan?
Thank you, Jean. One of the joy of giving is by being invasive with my family. Is at the beginning when I just learned the MVC, what I do is doing MVC. Is when people, if some family members see something, I will say, oh, that's a judgment. You should not see that. You should see observed. You know, I try to correct people, which is not bring the connection between us. So now I have this MVC awareness. When I hear judgment, I could do the difference, either empathy others or either do the silent empathy for myself, which is can bring the quality of connection what I want through NVC. So that's one of joy of giving by being NVC in my list. I just want to share this.
Thank you, and thank you for highlighting a common pattern of growth for us NVC practitioners. We often start our NVC journey with this great excitement about NVC and how it can make life more wonderful if just other people would do it. Then our life could be so much more wonderful, right? So if we could just get other people to stop judging and get other people to do this or do that. And so I know I spent a lot of energy in correcting people when I first started learning NVC, and then we get feedback that people aren't really enjoying this. And then in a way, it's another form of domination, right? And so then we learn that what's really, the gift is really in empathy and self-empathy and honesty, like you said, Juan. And then we're much more into being NVC. So thank you for highlighting that natural progression. Beth or Don?
So I really enjoy all the different comments and inputs here. And I was thinking, I think it was when, I don't know if I got the pronunciation right, but Juba was talking about who's benefiting from this. And what I'm thinking about is forgiveness. The word forgiveness has a give in the middle. So it is a gift when you forgive. And it benefits yourself, really, when you forgive because you're letting go. So that's another way of giving that benefits, and you could think of it as a gift.
Absolutely. Amen. Yeah, so let me just share the screen with you again, and what I catch is that that there's different kinds of gifts that we can give, and my left brain loves to have categories. So I came up with these categories today as I was thinking about the class. And these categories are inspired by the Chilean economist Manfred Max Neef. Manfred was a big inspiration for Marshall. You know, Marshall said he worked with what became nonviolent communication for many years before he came up with needs. And that when he started studying the work of Manfred Max Neef, that was one of the things that really contributed to Marshall and gaining more understanding of this universal quality of connection that needs offer us. And so Max Neef actually has a very complex system around needs, and he divides them into having needs, doing needs, and being needs. And so a having gift would be a gift that would be like an object, like an item of clothing or a car or a house or some groceries or something that you could hold in your hand or put into a wheelbarrow that was large enough, some sort of an object. So that's something that you can have. And that's typically what we think of when we think of gifts. People in the United States, they put things in packages and they wrap them with bows and they put them under the tree, and there are always a bunch of objects, and that can be a lot of fun. Because every object, there's some need that the object hopefully is designed to fulfill. And so that's one category of gifts. Another one would be doing gifts. This would be like acts of service, like holding the door open for somebody, could be picking up, doing an errand for someone. Any kind of act of service would be a doing gift. And I'll bet each of you does more of this than giving objects, that probably every day we're doing acts of service for either ourselves or for other people, because human beings have such a strong need to contribute that we're always serving life, whether we acknowledge it or not. And then the third kind of gift would be a being gift. And this would be those special relational moments that some people mentioned, like you find out that a friend has suffered a trauma, or is somehow processing an old trauma. And you happen to be there with the resources to be able to just be present. In fact, I think it was Carl Rogers who said something like, the biggest gift that we can give to another human being is our presence. And that doesn't require us to do anything or to have anything. It just requires us to be fully present as one human being in the presence of another human being. And so I wonder if I've missed anything in my categories here. Does anybody else have any categories or types of gift so that we can improve the presentation next time? Anybody else got anything? Shamu, you got something you want to share?
Yeah, so even giving your time is very important to others.
Yes.
Directly, indirect, either way.
Yeah, I love it.
Even, realistic case, you giving your time to us for our, enlightenment of knowledge.
Absolutely. Yes. Our time is a gift.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kay?
Hi. This might be a combination of presence and active service, but I was thinking about the gift of music. I like to play the piano for others, or the gift of art or poetry. So yeah, I wanted to include that.
Yeah. So time, art. So these are both very subtle. I'm making a note so I can add it to the presentation. These are very subtle objects in a way. I've been the recipient of your music, Kay, and I can attest to how it's a gift. And it combines some of the elements of the other things, because it's very relational, because I know you through you coming to the group. So there's that relational quality. There's this being, you're really being there in the music. And when I'm listening to it, I'm really being there. So we're being there together relationally. And that's what makes it a very special occasion. Thank you. Harmony?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking of the gift of devotion, and I wasn't sure really where that fits in.
Yeah, I would put that, I think, in the category of a relational gift or a being gift. Maybe it's a combination, like love. There's a key distinction in nonviolent communication about love. There's the feeling of love, which comes and goes from moment to moment, these micro moments when we can experience love. Then there's the need for love, which motivates so much of what we do as human beings. Love is such a deep need that helps to define what a human being is. So that seems vitally important as well. And then that when we actually follow that need and up with contribution, then that's love as an action. We put the love that we feel and the love that is our need, we put that into, we add it to our own power, and then we give a gift. Every time we give a gift, it seems like that's an act of love. And again, seems like that's part of what defines us as human beings. And not that people that have, or beings that just have 2 arms and 2 legs are the only kind of human beings. I mean, I've got a cat, she seems very human sometimes. I've had dogs that have very human qualities. That so much of nature has this quality of giving and receiving in it, in all kinds of activities. Does that make sense to you, Harmony? That devotion would be both relational and being?
Yeah, it does in that context. And I guess maybe it's the same thing, but it's different than being in the relationship in devotion to somebody. It was more like devotion in a spiritual way, like, you know, if you, yeah, just like it's it's like almost for you, it's the gift of giving for you, but it's devotion to the, you know, divine source of all.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure about that one, but yeah.
Makes sense to me. Beautiful. Thank you, Harmony. And Jeff, and then Sangeeta.
Yeah, thank you for the question. What came to me as like as a category is like gifts of potential. So like I'm giving encouragement or hope or teaching, something that like enables somebody for the future. So that's what was coming up for me.
Beautiful, beautiful example of relational giving, you know, and it actually, thank you. It kind of meets my need for empathy, Jeff, that you say that, because that's why I do this. I really want to show up and give you guys, hopefully, a gift that will be something that you learn and take away, and that it will influence, it'll be like a little seed that gets planted of love in action in your life, or maybe a ripple on the ocean. And if we get enough of these ripples going, then we can create a tsunami of compassion in the world. That would be that we can just get completely awash with Freudenfreude.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too.
Thank you.
Sangeeta?
So, Jim, what came out to me was gift of appreciation, as in the NVC way. And just like Kay mentioned, as a singer, I share some pieces of singing with even Jaya over here in our group. And when she appreciates me with that in that NVC language, which is so full of meeting my needs, the need language, and what has it given her, that it has given her joy in listening to that piece. I think that just fulfills me,
Absolutely.
that gift of appreciation.
Absolutely. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's that virtuous cycle again. Yeah. Tanya?
So one of the things, this is in relationship, I think, to, was it Rob who was talking about the paying forward kind of giving? I was thinking about this because I have some friends that are going through some very circumstances, environmental circumstances that are pretty much unmovable, that are terrible for them. And what is helpful for them when we talk about what they can do, because they can't do anything about the terrible circumstances at the moment, is self-empathy for the benefit of their children and their other people that they interact with, so that they will be resourced enough to respond in a compassionate way. And also thinking about the act of being a good ancestor for the future, for future generations. So exactly what you're doing here is you're helping us learn how to be good ancestors. We may not see the beloved community that we would like the world to be, but we're doing the work. So I don't have a category or label, but I'm just curious to see if you're getting something out of this ramble.
Well, I get your love. That's what I mostly get. I get love, and I get relationality. That when you're with these people that are having problems in their life, puzzles to solve, and your presence and your support in whatever way you give it is truly a gift. And I imagine that it's knowing what I know about you, Tanya, after getting to know you over the last couple of years, that it just comes from this very deep place of compassion and care in you. So thank you. So I want to go back and show what gets in the way of giving before we do the next exercise. So sometimes what gets in the way of giving is actually, we think that it's a motivation for giving in the first place. So one is obligation. We think we have to give. This comes up sometimes around holidays or birthdays or big events in people's life where we feel an obligation to give a gift. And if we give a gift from the sense of obligation, we're probably going to pay a price of resentment, and so is the other person. Likewise, with if we're giving to obtain a reward, if we think we're going to get something back for giving, it's really not so much a gift, it's a deal. Nothing wrong with making a deal. Just be clear on what it is. If we're giving to receive, it's just different. It's just a different kind of an activity that human beings also do. Another thing that can motivate giving is guilt. Again, if we're giving out of a sense of guilt, like let's say that a friend of ours calls us up and needs some empathy, and we go ahead, we don't really sense that we have the resources to give this gift of empathy in this particular moment. But since they were there for us last time when we needed help, we start feeling guilt or shame for saying no. So we go ahead and give the gift. And again, we're likely to pay the price with resentment. And Marshall called it empathy from hell. That when we do any kind of giving of relational gifts out of guilt, shame, duty, obligation, or to obtain a reward, or out of fear, everybody's going to end up paying. So I'll give some advice about how to deal with these 6 motivations in just a moment. But that leaves the ones that mostly you guys were touching on as you shared, and that's love and joy. When these are the needs that naturally arise out of compassion, that our hearts are moved by compassionately by the unsatisfied needs of another human being or an animal or a plant. And so out of the experience of love, we contribute to the well-being of that being. And then that creates this virtuous cycle that we talked about earlier about when we give, it's with the joy of a child feeding a hungry duck, and the distinction between giver and receiver begins to melt away. But then what do we do about obligation and these other sorts of things? Well, the one way to deal with them, the most effective way that I know of, is through empathy. To first notice that we have this constriction in us. We're telling ourselves, I have to give this person a birthday present, or I have to say yes to this request, or whatever it is. And then to follow that have to, that noticing that with what's the threat? If I don't do it, what's the threat? And so if I don't give the birthday gift, I have to give it, or they'll stop loving me. So when I get connected to the threat or the or else of the have to, it's a direct pointer to the need. Because let's say I have to give this person a birthday present or they'll stop loving me. Well, I can start questioning that. Well, is that really true? I don't think that the love is so tender and tenuous that it hinges on whether or not I give them a gift. That probably what they most want from me is a gift that's freely given. So so by first noticing it and naming it, and then I can start walking my way back to connection with myself of what need might really be motivating me to give or to not give, to actually begin to exercise more autonomy and choice, so that the gifts I do choose to give come out of love and joy and the energy of contribution. So let me just pause there and see if there's any questions before we do the next exercise. Is that a fresh hand or an old hand, Tanya? That's an old hand, okay. Okay, not seeing any questions. Let's do the next exercise, set up our next little group experience. Some of you have been to, we do this once or twice every year, this particular practice. Describe a moment when you gave a gift without any expectation of receiving anything back. I'll put it in the chat for you, and then I'll put it on the screen as well. Another chance to do some journaling. Excuse me. Describe a moment when you gave a gift without any expectation of receiving anything back. I'll give you about 5 minutes to think about this and to do some writing about it. About 2 more minutes to write. about one more minute. So in a minute, I'm going to open up small groups for you to share your stories, but I want to give you the opportunity to enhance your experience of this moment of compassionate giving. So what you've done so far is the observation part of nonviolent communication. I asked you just to describe what you did, right? So, for example, in my case, about it was maybe 3 years ago, I received a call from my uncle, and my uncle is only 6 years older than me, so he was always my favorite uncle because he was my generation, but he was running into some financial difficulties, and he asked me for a loan of some money so that he would be able to keep his house. And so I said yes to his request, and I had no expectation that I'd ever receive that money again. I learned a long, long time ago that if I loan money out to somebody, that if I give it as a gift, then if I ever receive it back, it's like a miracle. But if I don't receive it back, I won't be disappointed. Because I'm not expecting it. I don't have that expectation. So I gave him the money without any expectation of ever seeing it again. And then about 2 months ago, I got a letter from him with a card and a thank you note and the repayment of the check. And I was completely shocked. And I just had this sense of such warmth and care and mutuality. So by first, I noticed the feelings that were alive in me when I gave the gift. And then when something unexpected, when I received a gift back from him, a whole host of other emotional experiences came alive. And I had this fantastic 2 telephone calls with him as we ironed out the details, because he actually overpaid me for what I had loaned him and so forth. And then the most miraculous thing then happened was this money, this unexpected money, is sitting in my bank account. And then I receive a call from another dear friend that suddenly she needs some money. And so it was as if the universe had conspired so that my uncle would give me the money to have it available in my account to be able to give to my mentor who was needing money for something else. And so it was just like this beautiful sensation of flow of the universe that allowed me not only to give the money once, but then to give the money a second time. It's just like I just feel this sensations in my face of this big grin. My heart's just kind of beating really fast as I tell the story. I have a sense of excitement, and I hope you're all enjoying some Freudenfreude. As you connect to the joy that I have, and you empathize with that joy. And so now that's what you get to do in your small groups, is you get to go experience Freudenfreude. You get to go experience the joy of the other person's giving and whatever the story is that they want to tell you. And then to listen with empathy, in other words, and to actually connect to the needs that were alive in the person when they gave the gift, and also the needs alive in them as they're telling you the story right now. That's where empathy is really happening. Is right now as they're telling you the story, and you're connecting to the needs that are alive in them as they're telling the story. That's the biggest gift that you can give them, is your presence. And so everybody have about 5 minutes to tell their story. And so when you're finished, then pass it on to the next person. Most of the groups are 3. There's 1 or 2 groups of 2. That just means you get to tell more than one story, because that's what happens when you start telling these stories of compassion and giving and receiving. It's likely to stimulate more stories. So we'll all come back here in 15 minutes, and then we'll do some debriefing about it. So I'll set the timer for 14 minutes. You'll have 15 minutes total, because there'll be 1 minute at the end. And we'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Enjoy enjoy this deeply ancient human tradition of not only compassionate giving and receiving, but telling stories. And we'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Yes. I'll see if I can get you guys connected somehow. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. I have a little bit of envy that I wasn't in a small group, but I caught the wave of your Freud and Freude from here. Pooja, your hand is up, I think. Would you like to share something?
Yes, I have a question. We had a wonderful exercise experience, and as part of the Freud and Freude, I, received much joy in the sharing. And a question came up for me, is that there was one example of which was shared, which was around how they hold on to their higher value when they're driving in traffic in LA, and how they are very compassionate and considerate around their driving habits, although everybody may be cutting each other, and it meets many needs for them. And then I had a question where I feel like, at what point is that compassionate giving that can become enabling for other people's behaviors around being inconsiderate, especially let's say in driving situations, and safety habits, and meeting needs for others as a shared group?
Yeah, so it's a deep question. What I hear is the question is, where is there a border between compassionate giving and enabling? And enabling maybe behaviors that are not life-serving. And I think the typical example would be something like that I noticed that I've wrestled with in my own life is, let's say that there's someone on the street who is trying to collect money for themselves for and my heart opens. I want to just reach into my pocket and I give them, and then there's a little jackal thought that says, well, what if I give them the money and they use it to buy drugs or alcohol or something like that? Am I enabling a bad habit, and so forth? And I don't think there's one answer. I think it's an opportunity to connect with myself first, to get clear on what my own needs are. And then I have a friend who's a trainer in Philadelphia. Some of you might know him. I'm pretty sure he gets credit for this story, but he was wrestling with this very issue about someone was on the street asking for money. He wanted to give them money, but he was a little bit worried about it. And so he went and he approached the person and he talked about his worry. And he said, I'd like to be able to support you, but I want to make sure that the money I give you goes for food. So how about we walk into this restaurant here, sit down, I'll buy your lunch for you, and we can connect. And that's what happened. So he took this opportunity to wrestle with his own apprehension about enabling and use it as an opportunity to connect. And so I took inspiration from that. And so whenever we go out to eat or something like that, we always take any food that's left over, we keep in a to-go container. And if we happen to find somebody on the street that's looking for food, we give them the to-go container. And they're so grateful to have it. And sometimes we'll even buy extra food. And so that we'll have it for that situation. And so that's one way, is to make sure that the gift that you're giving is in alignment with your values. And then the last thing I think I would say, Pooja, is if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of compassion and trust that the person will make the best decision that they're capable of making to meet their needs. Maybe I enable them to get one more hit of meth or whatever. We have a big meth problem in Hawaii, but maybe it's the last one they ever have, because they realize during that particular situation that there's a better way and they get help. So I don't want to prejudge what my gift means to them. I want to give the gift without an expectation. And that means that I let go of the idea to the best of my ability to not worry about enabling. Anything you want to say in response to that, Pooja?
Thank you so much for sharing. That was really, really, really helpful. And then the other question that came up was that, it was mostly like around honesty, around, just compassionate giving, that we want to hold ourselves to, say, a value of being in alignment with ourselves and giving from that space. And then the question that came up for me was around, what if the person is having a grumpy day and they held themselves to the value around being considerate and driving in traffic in LA, but they're having a grumpy day and it's not necessarily going to be their first choice to live in the higher value. And what happens then?
Yeah. So I think that's a great question too, and that's where we put the oxygen mask on our own face first, and breathe in self-compassion. We all have grumpy days, and we all lose it. The idea for me, I'm going to quote Marshall here in just a second. The idea for me is not to be a perfect giraffe. I think it's a dead end that will only create suffering for us if we have a super high expectation that we be somehow a perfect NVC practitioner. Marshall joked that he never expected himself to be a perfect NVC practitioner, but rather he wanted to become progressively less stupid. And that seems like a great goal for me, just to constantly be moving towards meeting more needs with less cost, and being compassionate with myself when I inevitably blow it for the 75th time today, or whatever it is. That it's just because of the programming that I inherited from my culture. I'm going to be making these mistakes. I'm going to and also because my needs are not always satisfied. Sometimes I'm grumpy because I'm hungry or whatever, and then I behave in a way that's outside of my values. But then, if I'm awake and I notice that I did that, then I can go back and repair. I don't have to run away from my mistake. Rather, I can experience beneficial regret, like we worked on last week. I can do my own ho'oponopono and move towards the conflict and do the repair work that's necessary and be present. Give them the gift of my empathy now that I've reawakened to my values again. Does that make sense, Pooja? I see your heart, so I'm taking that as affirmation. Yeah, thank you. And Don?
Oh, well, I unmuted. The story about the beggar just came here in November from Colorado, and in Quartzsite, Arizona, there was a guy asking for money, and I quickly offered buying him some food, and he was very happy, and that was a nice connection and encounter. So I'm just summarizing that. And then the earlier assignment about giving with no anticipation or expectation of reward or positive feedback or anything. I had a great surplus of apples, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And there's the Durango Food Bank and a kitchen called Manna Kitchen that makes meals for people in need at lunch and dinner. And I just took boxes and bushels of apples to those places, and gosh, they were so grateful and thankful. And the chef at the Manna Kitchen has even won statewide awards for the quality of the food.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was a very nice experience. And then when I was about to leave, a friend said, don't worry about all those other apples. If you're heading for Santa Barbara, just go away and don't get too stressed about it. So I appreciated that feedback too. So and I had a wonderful sharing with Monica related to her teaching and really helping students in, I guess, on Oahu. And that you came by as a guest speaker to one of the classes, Jim. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome. That was a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an evening.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Yes,
Thank
and
you.
I want to give some gifts now. and see if there's any other questions that emerge. But I subscribe to the New York Times, and the New York Times gives me the opportunity to give a gift of articles. So this really long link in the chat will take you to an article in the New York Times that is about Freudenfreude. That's where I learned the word. It was just a couple of weeks ago. And so now you'll know everything that I know about it, and even more, because it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I read the article and I've forgotten most of it. But I did remember, the generally speaking, the word Freudenfreude, and it has become an important concept for me over the last 3 weeks in supporting my NVC practice. So that's gift number 1. Gift number 2 is an update. Last week, at the very end of the class, we squeezed in Ramanusha, who is a practitioner, a certified trainer from Sri Lanka. And those of you who are here might remember her report of first, how stressful things are in Sri Lanka because of high inflation rates, instability in the government, and distrust of the government, lots of unmet needs at the social and societal level. And Ramanusha decided she and I had some connection, and she wanted to find some kind of a way to contribute. So I said, well, think about it, and then when you think of something, come to the practice group, and we'll see what we can do. And so last week she came and she shared about her idea of picking out one school where she has taught NVC in the past, and where they would kind of adopt one particular class of 5th and 6th graders. And she would collect money in order to make sure these kids got at least 3 good meals a week. Let's see if I can make it through this whole story without completely breaking down. It cost about 50 cents to feed a kid in Sri Lanka a good, nutritious meal. And Ramanusha is willing to do all the work on the ground to make sure these kids get at least 6 months of food. And she had a goal of raising $3,000. And it was a little bit less than that. I rounded it up to $3,000. And so I said that anything that you guys gave to Jory and I over the last week, we would match and then send it on to her to help feed these kids next year. And so because of your generosity, we raised $1,272 from your gifts last week. So I doubled that, and that comes out to $2,544. So we're only about $300 or $400 short of the goal. So I'm going to put the link in the chat for those of you who might want to give a little more or didn't get a chance to give last week because the link didn't work or whatever. So here's 2 different ways that you could PayPal me the money. And then I'll be PayPaling it to or sending it through some method to Sri Lanka here later this week. So that first link is a very short link. If for some reason that doesn't work, then you can try this. And if that doesn't work, you can send me a check, but make it out to me. Don't make it out to Ramanusha. But here's my address. And I will cash the check, and then I'll send it on to, and double it, and send it on to Ramanusha in Sri Lanka. This is the second time you guys have come through with a fundraising activity like this. You also supported Amina, our only certified trainer in the Philippines, raising money for her project in an NVC practice group for women in the Philippines. So thank you for your generosity. Everything that we receive in this practice group gets turned into NVC somehow or another. So, and I try to keep you informed about what we do with that money. So here's some more links to give you. If you want to give, at the end of the year here, some people like to give money to charities, and the Center for Nonviolent Communication is a charity in the United States. So if you're a US taxpayer and you want a tax deduction, you can give the money directly to CNBC, and they'll do the paperwork to make sure that you get your tax deduction if you would like to do that. Jory, who couldn't be here today, loves to do one-on-one sessions. That's her passion. We just celebrated her 75th birthday the other day, and she really thrives on giving the gift of one-on-one sessions or mediations. And we do all of our work on the compassionate giving and receiving basis, like we've already been talking about. And there's a link there, jory.youcanbook.me. Several of you have taken the opportunity to connect with Jory and do a private session with her, and encourage you to do that if you haven't done it already. And then another link here. If you're here for the first time and you want to be informed about future meetings, there's a link there to sign up to our email list. And then you just need to make sure that to watch for it in your spam. It comes out usually on Sunday mornings, or could be Monday for you guys in India or in Asia. We record all the meetings every week, and we put them in 2 different places. One is on our own website, pathwaystoLiberation.com, and the other is a YouTube channel. And I also include the handouts on our website, the little slideshows. I'm a little bit behind this week, no excuses, but just been busy. So I'll get that updated for last week. It's on YouTube, but it's not on our website yet. And I think that's all the links that I have. We've got about 8 minutes left. Any other questions or comments from anybody about compassionate giving and receiving, or the joy of giving? Love to hear some feedback about what this class was like for you, especially if you haven't spoken yet or you haven't spoken today. Love to hear your voice. Bye, Roya. Thank you for being here. Well, then maybe we're finished for today. I'm willing to be finished 7 minutes early. And so what we usually do at the end is have a little. Shamu, did you want to say something? You just unmuted yourself.
Yes, Tim, it was a very wonderful session, and it's a new learning for me. It's the first time I'm entering into our community, and I wish and I hope that I need to give lots of learning to others, and learning from our group too, and practice NVC and enlighten the world with NVC. So it's wonderful. And being a Christmas month and it's end of the year, I think this is the first gift I'm receiving. Not the last one, but the first gift for the next year in advance.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And I'll put my email address in here. I'd love for you to write to me, and I'll get you connected to my friend Shyla that lives in your city as well.
Sure.
I'm sure you would love meeting her and vice versa. So here in this,
wonderful.
Any of you can write to me if you have questions or other needs. I'll do my best to reply. Pooja and then Kimberly. Pooja?
Well, sure. So I have another question pop up if you're willing to.
Sure.
Yes. So the question that's alive for me right now is, do you have any suggestions for checking in with people, especially so one of my needs is I find it very hard to receive because I am not clear or not sure if they're coming from the place of the feeding the hungry duck, and I was wondering if you had any specific questions to check in with the other person, just so that when you're receiving, you're in the clear, that it's that receiving then doesn't feel resentful after.
Yeah, that's a great question. So situation is, can you give a specific example? Why don't you be the other person, and I'll be you, and I'll give you one way maybe of handling it.
Yes. So for example, a friend wants to take me to dinner for my birthday. Mm-hmm. And my hope is that it's coming from their heart, where they want to, celebrate or like feed the hungry duck.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like that gesture may not be coming from that space.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
it
I
could
got
be
it.
coming from, yeah.
Okay, so you're my friend. You're offering to take me for to birthday dinner, and
Yes.
I say to you, "Gosh, Pooja, I'm so touched. It's so exciting to think that we could share a meal together, and I imagine we would really have a lot of fun." And I just want to check with you just to make sure that this is a gift that you can afford to give right now, because I only want to receive it if you can really give the gift with joy. How do you feel when you hear me say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a common response. It's quiet. Yeah,
Mm.
so I would then empathize with that. So maybe this is a strange question for you. No one's ever asked you. Is it uncomfortable for me to ask?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I felt like it would meet needs for you, Jim, if I took you to dinner and we celebrated, and it would mean something for you.
Yeah. Well, hearing that, I notice my whole I really notice my whole body relaxes. Now that I have a total sense of trust that this is coming from your need to celebrate and connect with me. And I look forward to it. When would you like to do it? And then we wind in and make the
Yes.
appointment. Yeah. So it's basically, I think the advice is slow things down just a little bit. And again, I'm going to err on the side of compassion for the most part. I'm going to err and just assume that people really know what their own best interest is. And unless I have a history with a person that they've given me gifts before in the past and it has worked out to breed resentment, then I would slow things down even more, like with my wife or my kids or something like that, where we have more history, more luggage. I would want to make sure that we slowed things down through a more connected dialogue. Okay, Kimberly.
I do have something to say, but could I ask what the question was that you responded to, the actual question, because I was distracted momentarily. I
Yeah,
hate to make you repeat yourself.
No problem. Pooja asked something like, "What happens when you get an offer and you're not totally trusting that the offer is being given to you with the joy of a child feeding a hungry duck?" Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So that actually speaks to my question, and this is weird, and I don't know if it's even makes sense for me to ask, but I have a dear friend who overgives and won't allow me to give to her. But she also needs to elaborate on all her giving, and then she has many, many resentments of her not getting. And it's very detailed, and it's a huge problem for her.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll make a little comment, but I do feel somewhat, like ineffective and for me it's just so clear and blaring, and yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm catching you, you find out after the fact that she's given a gift that she can't afford to give.
Well, not necessarily monetarily, but
Right.
she is
Emotionally.
a very giving. Yeah, she calculates everything and has a sort of secret idea of what she needs and wants, and is very resistant to receive anything.
Yeah.
So there's a combination of things going on.
Yeah. Well, I guess if she was my friend, I would look for the opportunity to have a conversation about that, and then to see if we could figure out a way to collaborate. So, like, here's one idea that just popped up for me. Kimberly, I know I really appreciate the generosity that you've given, and it awakens a sense in me that I want to give back. And yet I'm hearing from you, Kimberly, that you don't want to receive from me, that it's really about giving for you. So how about we talk together about, I have that need to give too. Maybe we can decide together who I could give to in order to have that sense of balance, something like that. So maybe decide on a charity to give some money to, or some other person that you know in your community that could use a gift. But you do it collaboratively as a project with her. So then maybe she gets to have the experience of the joy of giving with you, rather, because maybe it's just too scary for her to give by herself yet. Something like that. That's one thought.
Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're welcome. So next week, when we get back together again, we will work on resilience. Resilience. Sometimes the holidays, the end of the year, these the solstice can really awaken a sense, especially in the northern hemisphere. It's very dark period of time for people, and they often feel sad and need some support in bouncing back from the trauma of the year. And so we'll talk about what we can do within ourselves to build resilience and how to support resilience in our friends. And so we hope you'll join us next week to talk about that. And then after, we're going to end the call now, and if you would like to stick around, I'll make a small group for you so you can continue to practice and just connect and have a little after party with people. And I just want to say, Jennifer, I'm so happy seeing you here today. I'm really glad that you could arrange your schedule to be back with us. It's really fun to have you here. So thank you for being here, and thank all of you for being here. And I see your note, Amy. I'm celebrating that you're back here as well. It's hard to believe that it was a whole year. So thank you for all of you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next week and on beyond. Aloha, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.